Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everybody. I'll just turn down that racket, you know. It's loud. It's a little hype for some people might feel a little hype today. Some people might find reason to celebrate. But, you know, we're in a difficult period. We're in a really difficult period. This is a symptom of something that's wrong and broken with the club. So, even though it's sometimes, you know, a reason to celebrate that changes are happening and effort is being made in trying to correct the trajectory of the club, it's still, you know, not necessarily a super happy event. It sucks we got to go through it. It also sucks for Gonzalo Pineda that, you know, his time here probably should have been better. And unfortunately, due to a lot of seemingly inexplicable things and some explicable, it just didn't pan out. So, yeah, we're here to talk a little bit about him and also the press conference that had just concluded, you know, not like maybe 30 minutes ago. So, AJ, welcome. How you doing today? Are you
good,
jubilant or are you morose? How are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a neutral feeling for sure for me. You know, obviously we've wanted him gone. I personally have wanted him gone for the better part of probably a month and a half. When, yeah, pretty much results started to sour, and it really just started to look like the message wasn't very clear that what he was trying to do with the club and what he was trying to do with the players, it just wasn't really achieving results for what we were wanting, especially with the strong transfer window we had last summer. And with that, you know, a lot of players have looked worse under his helm. And yeah, I mean, it seemed like we were waiting until the perfect moment instead of kind of trying to stop the hemorrhaging of results that were happening. So yeah, I would say it is finally, but it is still, a man lost his job, and that does really suck for him and his family, but I feel like he will find his feet very soon. It's just obviously, you know, he had a bad turn of luck for sure with some of the injuries throughout his time. Of course, Joseph Martinez as well, Brad Guzan, Miles Robinson, big name players. That's not to be completely overlooked. But, you know, sometimes luck and also the actual ability to coach the team that you have and the team that you're playing against you, well, that's where he really failed here. And I think, you know, rightfully so, there were a lot of fans that were calling for Pineda to be gone.
Yeah, absolutely. So, do you want to get into a little bit of what was discussed on the press conference? So I took a couple of notes while I was listening to it today, and I also had some conversations on Twitter with some people, including Doug Roberson, about how we were trying to mind read a little bit based on some of Garth's comments, because he was intentionally obtuse with some of them. You know, as you typically are with media when you're, you know, operating from a corporate standpoint, is not unusual to see that type of answer being given for various questions that are kind of pressing, difficult. So first, do you want to just talk about the GG stuff? Because that's easy. We can get it out of the way. You know, his quote.
Yeah, basically that, if there was a move, you know, that if it was finalized, then he would be the first to know. Well, right now it seems like, at least according to Fabrizio Romano, that the terms have been agreed with Yorgos Yakimakis. That was like his latest tweet about 25 minutes ago. So the negotiations with LA United are still happening. So the deal is not done, and you know, obviously, Garth Lagerwey would not be really announcing it, you know, in this fashion anyway. So, you know, it's not it's kind of a nothing statement, really. I feel like ultimately,
Yeah.
Yorgos Nakamakis looks like he is gone, and there will be probably another move for a DP this summer, but whether Rob Valentino, who is now the interim head coach, who Garth Lagerwey has basically mentioned, he will be supporting as much as possible to succeed, and if a new assistant head coach needs to be hired as well to kind of help him along, hopefully, and of course, kind of, I think rightfully so, they would be thinking, yes, if the assistant coach with Rob Valentino now being the interim head coach succeeds, makes their job a lot easier. At Seattle Sounders, they pretty much operated in a similar fashion to be able to find, from Smetzer when Schmidt was let go as well. So obviously Gonzalo Pineda was part of that. He had known him a long time, so there is a history there. And all accounts, Gonzalo Pineda, a great guy, but it's just ultimately, not the man for the job. But Yorgos Nakamakis probably gone.
Yeah, I thought it was a little interesting, the comment about when he was immediately asked about the rumors by Rob Ursery. He said, "We're committed to players that are committed to us," and that that Garth was happy to confirm that they've talked with Cruz, but nothing yet. So it's good to hear that they're committed to players that's committed to us. But it was a little interesting that they said that right after they're asking about what his status is, when some people have suggested that perhaps he's looking for a way out right now. But I don't think that's true. I think it's more so he's wanting money. I think that's what the evidence points to. So that's what we're gonna roll with. Next is, in terms of the timeline of finding a new coach, he had stressed that it wasn't an urgency to find a new coach as soon as possible, that they'll take their time to find the right guy. They don't want to make a mistake. I think that's a good mentality to have. And with a interim coach like Rob, who has proven himself in interim positions before for us, it's kind of a luxury for Garth to have there, that he can take his time, and hopefully we can have something go on with Rob while he's here. Garth seems to have some pretty high regard for him, considering he's like, we could make a run, we could do some damage in the rest of the season and perhaps the playoffs with Rob. So, I mean, if that's the mentality, which is underlined by the belief, the tremendous amount of belief he has in the team and their talent. He believes that we are extremely underperforming, and that perhaps just with a change of voice, this team could start to see a little bit more of their talent emerging. So that was, how do you feel about that? Do you feel like, because some fans on Twitter were saying, I would prefer that they actually consider this an urgent situation, that they should have actually already started looking for a coach. And it's weird that they didn't even say that. They said they will begin now. And then they were like, well, buddy, you should have been, writing's been on the wall for a while. But then, other people have said it's a bad look to be searching for a coach while you already have one, especially if the coach knows about that. So, yeah, what is your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's a lot to unpack with, there's a flurry of questions in there. So I'll try to go from,
this is welcome to AJ's press conference where he is grilled.
I know, right? Right. But so as far as regarding the time frame and searching, I get it from both ends in the sense that, okay, yes, the search maybe should have already been happening. The problem is we just got out of a stretch of 9 games in a month, and that's busy for everybody. It's not just where the scouts can just kind of disappear, and then as well, you have pretty much the higher ups. They have to pay attention to the games. They have to make sure that what they're seeing, they can intelligibly know what's going on with the club currently. So if you're going to go visit with prospective head coaches, well then you kind of have to have the time to be able to do it as well. So while Garth Lagerwey, I think it's unknown if he goes on every single road trip. I mean, obviously he's paying attention to every single match though. So It is, I think, since he said that he's going to be spearheading it, and not Carlos Bocanegra. It was almost, a couple times that Doug Roberson asked that. Yeah, he pretty much pointed that. Yeah, I will be running it. If Garth, it's Garth Lagerwey speaking, and basically that's obviously there's kind of the video analyst. There's all sorts of people in the front office that he will be leaning on as well for that. But very telling, I think, that Carlos Bocanegra, maybe the faith in him isn't necessarily at the utmost, at the moment. But I think ultimately as well, he knows that the buck stops at him, and he mentioned as much that the second half, it's an evaluation for everybody, including himself. And I like that accountability, but I think it's also, yes, obviously he would be the last person unless he just feels so dispirited in the process. But I have a feeling that this is a very nice situation for him, cushy for him. It would not be something that, I would be very shocked if, it's something that he has such a big falling out that he leaves or something. Like, that's not, I think, even in the question. I think it's more, obviously, if Bocanegra, doesn't improve the team in, kind of the players for the next transfer window. He's basically giving him this transfer window, I would imagine, and it's a strong yes or no right after that. If he doesn't feel like the team has been able to succeed in the fashion that they feel like they should for the remaining of the second half of the season, I think we might see Carlos Bocanegra gone. But I guess why he hasn't let go also Carlos Bocanegra is the bit of instability that would also cause in the front office when you have pretty much two people at the helm let go at the same time. So while he probably deserves the boot, it's not quite yet.
Yeah, I agree. I think the responsible thing to do here is essentially to carve off piece by piece. If things are still not working, then you carve off another piece. Still not working, carve off another piece. That way, you're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and because it would be really dispiriting if you were to fire some guy who, actually, he wasn't the problem at all, and it was actually this other thing. So, you do it more surgically and carefully like that. I think it's fairly responsible. With regards to whether or not Bocanegra will be part of the person that helps pick the next coach, to Doug Roberson's credit, he asked twice, pointedly, to Garth, if Boca would be involved in all that. And he, essentially said he wouldn't give a simple yes. And he said that there is essentially like a leadership group, like a bunch of folks, or whatever, how he put it, that would be involved in the selection process, which he is the leader of. So right there, that makes me happy and content, because with him at the helm of it, I have faith in that. However, it would not surprise me. It would actually strike me as very odd if Bocanegra wasn't at least part of that, executive group that at least had some kind of opinion about something that he'd be consulted on. However, like I said, because Garth is in charge, I don't think that that's going to really matter much, honestly. So, whatever you think about Boca, not a big deal.
Right, and it would be very awkward for Carlos Bocanegra, though, if he wasn't at least consulted. He would be pretty much knowing that he's a sitting duck. He's just pretty much let it go. Yeah, well, I'm not here long then if there is no at least consultation. But the non-answer, I think, is very, very telling.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. The next part was so they asked. I forget who asked this. Was it Doug who also asked this? Yeah, I think it was Doug who also asked this. Was it Gonzo's tactic or strategy that got him, part of the decision to get him removed? And Garth responded that it wasn't. He said a very emphatic no. That he more pointed to a failure of the entire organization. And that is a pretty fairly good canned response when it comes from like a corporate entity. It's like we're never going to point to one person. It's all of us who fail, even though we're firing one guy. So I thought that left me feeling a little wanting, considering I think that there's a lot of critiques to his tactics and strategy, and if you were to bring on another coach that literally did the same thing, I think you'd find similar results. So, I mean, in my position, I would imagine tactic strategy would have come to the conversation, but, I understand why they wouldn't say so.
Exactly. For him to answer that in this way, I think is a protection of his friendship with Gonzalo Pineda. Obviously, it's very, very tainted at the moment, and whether they ever speak again, who knows? That is the difficulty, obviously, because him having known him as a player and as a assistant at Seattle, and then as a head coach here. So it definitely, it it makes it for a tough situation. I don't think there's going to be any Christmas cards this year between them two, but I think as far as kind of the tactics and the playing style, Lagerwey did address that. He doesn't think that there's one way to play, and that's he used the word pragmatic a couple times, maybe a few times in the presser, and I think that's very very interesting, because it is kind of a way that MLS, with the salary structured and how it's very capped, that you can only build your roster to a certain degree. You can't just go crazy and just throw money completely at every single problem. They've had to kind of deal with the ramifications of having some bad guaranteed contracts. And so as far as the tactics go, he seemed kind of open, I think, to a lot of the different types of coaches that are out there, and acknowledging that the summer window would bring a lot of the different the different available head coaches that could be around say around end of June, early July, and so that's good in a sense that he realizes it's not just one way to play to succeed. He played under 5 or 6 coaches apparently, during his time in the league, and he won a couple of championships. Went to playoffs every single year. I think that part is really good, and that we have been kind of rigid in a sense in the past with what maybe Darren Eales have said, with how we set out to play, how we need to play. It's a new ethos, but it is also, now it's really, really important that whoever is next, that they do win, because that does seem to be the MO that they're trying to put forth out there, is that it's the winning formula, it's the winning winning head coach that persists. And it's, I think, ultimately with the type of head coach, I think a lot of fans want to see attacking football, but whether it is through a lot of possession or verticality, or playing on the counterattack or pressing up high, that part isn't necessarily the most important. It's that it's attractive football that excites the fans inside the stadium and away.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was also interesting, like you pointed out, what I took from that was the versatility, and they use the word pragmatic, like you said. And so applying the different kinds of strategies per the situation you're in. So like when you're playing away, you shouldn't be afraid to play, against the ball. When you're at home, perhaps it's okay to play with the ball. We have to be flexible, and he's going to hopefully be able to value that in a new coach prospect. And what's also interesting is, like, you said he seemed open, but it is a little so I actually prefer that he's open in this case. If you asked me this like a year or so ago, you know, like, or perhaps when we had a more solid identity, I would find this kind of statement a little more worrying. But, like, you know, him basically saying that he wants the new coach to essentially define the identity of the club, and that we really don't have one. So, like, that's kind of what I read from that. And to me, typically I'd be like, well, I don't want you to change the identity of what we have. But right now, I do, because we don't really have one. So it's okay if a coach wants to come in and put their stamp on things. So if you want to change things around completely even, I'm down with that if that's what it takes to win, you know, games and to become a relevant team in MLS again.
Yeah. And I think that's great, because I think we've kind of dealt with a little bit more, maybe not dictator or however we can say this word, dictatorial. Oh man, it's
dictatorial,
rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, dictatorial and
totalitarian.
Totalitarian, you know, because obviously, you know, there was a little bit of the friction with Carlos Bocanegra and several people, and you know, not only you know, Tata Martino, but also, you know, prospects of hire, which you know, I think there's been just countless, and you know, not only that, but players as well. So I think, you know, there is that that they're auditing, and I mean, I guess speaking of auditing, you know, another person asked as well that yeah, if they're auditing, you know, the injuries and how they can pretty much try to rectify that within the club, and I think it was interesting, you know, kind of what he said about that, you know, to kind of make sure that, you know, the club is looking at everything. I think, yeah, I think right now is the time to kind of check off each thing. It's like, okay, if not this,
right,
then this. If not this, what about that?
And that's a data guy for you, isolating variables. Very responsible.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, he did boil it down to bad luck. He basically said, you know, we had a bad run of luck when it comes to injuries. And I'm like, this is more than luck, my guy, I feel like. So, but
yeah,
hey.
Because he said it was less, he said it, more or less, I'm paraphrasing here, but he said it was less than, I guess, regularity last season. For the second half of it. And so it's like, okay, I mean, yeah, it also is, you know, you have guys that came on later on in the season, so there is that factor. It, you know, all of these are not without you know, kind of things that also we should look at in context and not just in a vacuum.
Right. Let's see. One other thing I thought was interesting was, you know, going back to the accountability. He said, like, we're all on notice for the rest of the season. Yeah, I think you said that earlier. And this was in response to one of the questions about, you know, shouldn't was it Felipe who said this? Like, shouldn't some of the responsibility be placed on the players? Once again, diffusing responsibility amongst the entire organization instead of it landing on either the coach or the players, which is, you know, to be expected. So yeah, he didn't put responsibility explicitly on any of the players, which again, you know, I mean, you have it Gonzo in press conference saying, like, you know, you can do everything you want, but a guy doesn't put the ball in the back of the net. What are you going to do?
Yeah, and it is that. I mean, yes, the group has been underperforming, but it is obviously first buck stops at Gonzalo Pineda, who was not extracting the most out of every single person on the club, on the squad rather. And so it's that. I mean, it's like, okay, you know, can Rob Valentino do it? If he can't, well then yes, you know, the search is already on. Well then, you know, it kind of buys them the time to be able to, like we're saying, cross variables out and see, you know, what's going to happen. And in terms of, you know, can Valentino be the guy to be the different voice in the locker room and you know, kind of extract the most value out of these players that are talented. They do have the ability to kind of be in different systems. So, okay, you know, if that's not it, then, well, I think we have our answer that, okay, maybe Gonzalo Pineda was, you know, definitely part of the problem. And beyond that, I think it's seeing if, well, you know, the transfer window does need to be, I think, where we also make sure that we replenish the coffers, make sure we address problem positions that lack depth, to be able to, kind of play the ways that we know that we want them to, or actually at least be flexible in playing in different types of systems. But I feel like it's also difficult to do that without the head coach in place. That is super important. And so, are you molding it into Rob Valentino's, kind of mindset, or are you doing it for the new head coach? I think that's very important as well. And I think you should do it for the latter versus someone that's also still applying and learning it straight, as well received as Rob Valentino has been. And he seems like a very direct person, a person that is fiery, will tell you like it is. So we'll see how Valentino does. And I think that's at least the reprieve. The fans can at least know that the front office is at least human, and they're not just this machine that's like, oh, well, we're fine, everything's great, everything, nothing's wrong here. It was apparent that for most of the season already that is not the case.
Yeah, and you probably don't have to worry too much, because Garth said, in terms of the next window, there should only be slight tinkering around the edges. So I don't think we're gonna, unless obviously he said, the DPs get sold, then you'll see DP movement. But in terms of the other players, slight tinkering only. Now, in terms of Rob Valentino, he said Garth believes Rob will take a new approach with the team. What does that mean to you?
I mean, I think he's probably watched maybe some of Rob Valentino's matches that he's coached with us, and obviously, probably during the whole time, he's been seeing how Valentino coaches the players as well. So, I think there's definitely a different feel. And Gonzalo Pineda is a little bit more of that kind of, while he can be a little fiery, I think he's a little bit more buddy-buddy with everybody. He's a little bit more, in a friendly manner. But Valentino might be a little bit more of the guy that's, some of the coaches need to be the guy who cracks the whip a little bit, the guy who's a little bit more of the guy that holds people accountable. And, maybe it is a bit of that where you have a bit of that, but also Valentino does seem to have the ability to be a leader of men, to be a person that kind of allows the players to play with a little bit of their kind of freedom, flexibility, and kind of in a very, very less way, kind of like a Carlo Ancelotti. Like, yeah, whatever way that you guys play, we're gonna maximize your strengths. And I think we saw a little bit of that. Whether he can achieve that with this group, not sure.
Yeah. So in terms of, Garth said that the new coach should ideally have familiarity with MLS. So that kind of narrows it a bit, doesn't it?
I think familiarity is like a very, very broad term. And, like Tata Martino, had a little bit of familiarity in that, he knew of MLS a little bit in terms of before.
I don't think that's what they're talking about. I think they're talking about the, some knowledge of the ins and outs of how the league works, which honestly most managers outside of MLS or past MLS coaches don't have.
I didn't read it as that, as someone's going to be from MLS, or the coach is going to be from MLS. It's obviously the roster construction things, that's something that they can be briefed on and be made more aware of. But as far as I think, kind of maybe played against an MLS side, I think there's some broad strokes here in that, maybe there's, because I would hope that it's not just, someone that's a retread from MLS, or, a player I think we need to broaden and, make sure that we look everywhere, because while MLS is very much a very special and particular type of league, because of the the rigid salary structure, it is still, though, football is football to one end. That's you find the most talented people and you can adapt them to it. And so for MLS, for Atlanta United, if we can find the most talented person that we can bring in, that we can hire, I think that's the most important thing, versus making sure that they know a bit about the rigors of the MLS travel, the salary, all that. It's there's a bit of that they can be briefed on, I feel like, as well.
Yeah, I just feel like the only reason you mentioned that is because you want someone with MLS experience, and that's the reason we got Pineda. So because some of the criticisms of past coaches have been that they didn't fully understand MLS and the way it works, and that's perhaps why that sometimes they struggle, or leave the job kind of quickly. Now, Garth also said that they're expecting many applications for the head coach job. That's a really good thing to hear. That's good that you're getting, like, he's expecting to get a lot of applications. So that's really, really cool. It seems to me people still evaluate Atlanta United very highly, as a wonderful place to work, which it is. I think all indications, if you've been around the facilities, infrastructure-wise, people-wise, it's a top-class organization. So I think most people know that by now, especially people who are interested in a new job. So it's really, really positive and good to hear that people want to come to Atlanta still. They regard Atlanta highly, and hopefully, we can get someone that perhaps could have a big name that sees what we have and goes, that's attractive to me.
Yeah. The only umbrage I feel like I have with that statement is that obviously it's not like it's after the fact that we received many applications. It's predicting that we're going to receive a lot of applications, which, okay, sure, anybody can predict that. I guess
no one's going to hold them accountable for that. No one's going to be like, so how many did you get? So.
Right, exactly. So that part really doesn't excite me per se. I think it's more that we do know that. Right, we do know that it is a it is a job that's pretty attractive, and if you can be that coach that brings this club out of the dredges of mediocrity, then you will be highly celebrated. So in that regard, there is an aspect that you can be the savior, in a sense, if there is a coach that kind of requires such feeling. But I think it really boils down to, though, it's important that we just make the right hire, and that whether there was 30 applicants, or there are 30 applicants, or there are 5 applicants, I think the most important thing is that we get the right guy.
Yeah. I thought this was a cool statement that he made. I don't know how much it pertains to specifically what we're talking about, but he said evaluating what was real and what was fantasy. I thought that was kind of a cool statement that he said, to see like what was in the club illusory and what was actually something that we can build upon and create strong foundations. And like we said, he's going through, okay, coach perhaps wasn't that. Maybe that was illusory. Now next is the players. Are they good enough to win a championship or get to the KPIs that Garth had outlined? We'll find that out. And then is Carlos Bocanegra finding the right players to add to this team? We'll find that out as well. And this is his way of finding out what is illusory and what is real. And I thought that was really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that part's really good, as well as though, it's with the technical director, that bit is just so important, I think, to me as well, because you see with other clubs, teams are not teams, but you have players that are doing well. You sign them to a new contract, you re-up, and you continue to kind of persist with the players that are doing well for you. I want to be that type of club versus the club that just moves on these players that are doing well or attract other clubs. It's it's a ways to get there probably, but that's the important thing that I think should be next after we sort out a little bit of this is keeping these players, because it's been a big gripe of fans is that all the players that either do well or whatever, they're just sold off, and you want, or they leave acrimoniously, and like you kind of really want to, for the fans' sake, I think that goes a long way in that the players that are doing well want to stay, do stay, sign extensions, maybe retire here, that type of thing, instead of overstaying their welcome, or being over the hill, or those type of things, or signing with a rival club in MLS. It's just like bad look after bad look recently, and it's just not something that's conducive to, I think, keeping the fan base satiated. It's in fact losing people's faith in the club, and I think that's the important part that we need to get back into to be able to make sure we do that.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like Garth is a perfect person to set us up for that kind of success. I mean, you look at Seattle, and I feel like, they don't have players leaving in like droves year after year. They have a lot of stalwarts that stick around for a long time, become club legends, and that's cool to see. Sometimes I feel like they pay them peanuts, and they decide, I'm going to stick around. That's fine. Like, how do you have this player still? Like, because with us, you remember in 2018, a lot of our players wanted more money, rightfully so, because they did so well. And then we couldn't keep them because of salary cap restrictions. And, they went on to go play for other teams. Then you see what, like, teams like LA are doing, what Miami are doing. They get players to come here to play for basically peanuts, and they're, like, insanely good. And you're like, that would be nice if we could do something like that. And then you have Seattle, which they don't have world-class guys on their team like those, but they have very good pieces that stick around for long, long swaths of time, and they perform. And that's how you have such stability and consistency out of a team, where you have very little turnover. Everyone kind of knows them. There's never like that, oh, are we going to have chemistry this year discussion? It rarely happens with them. So, outside of maybe some blips here and there and recent stuff. But for the most part, that's kind of the identity of Seattle, and that's something I'd be very much looking forward to building here. So on to the next part, so we can get you guys out of here before the end of the workday at 5 o'clock, so you can get back on the into the car and drive home. So they said there's no timetable for the coach search, which like I said, is probably expected and warranted, considering they want to get the right guy. One of the other things they said was that an alarm bell has been sounded. So I had a question about this. Like, I get when they said an alarm bell has been sounded, that it's been a wake-up call this season so far. And Garth genuinely stressed that they didn't see this coming. This was a bit of a blindsiding thing to them. I'm worried if they didn't see it coming. How am I supposed to be confident then that you're going to be able to make the correct decisions to fix it if this was something you didn't see coming? Because then well, I'm gonna hire this guy now, and then it's just like, well, oh, he also doesn't do well. It's like, well, it's because this guy this is gonna do well, and they didn't do well, and now this guy. So where's your metric? What, like, if I want to hear something, like, I want to hear something has changed in terms of your approach to the problem that you failed to solve the first time around. It was a little worrying to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also to an effect, though, where they're not going to set forth thinking that, oh, well, these people that we're going to hire are going to fail. But you do have to have that kind of fail-safe mentality as well. Like, okay, well, if this doesn't work out, what happens? Kind of plan for all the scenarios. And so, I think obviously the scenarios that they plan for in this sense, we can argue, is that sure, they they took it to the international window. Results just were really not happening, and it's a perfect time to make a move when things slow down a little bit and they can have the time to evaluate and kind of really dig into kind of the things that they need to versus a game every 3 days. So yes, I hear kind of your concern there. It is, I think, warranted, but it is also, I can see why it's not maybe necessarily at the forefront of their mind.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to use the rest of this unless you have anything else you wanted to say to close up. Looking at some of the comments that we have, there's quite a few of them, I guess, as to be expected. Guys, please hit the like button, comment and share this. You got 58 watching now. Before the end of a work day, what are you guys doing? What jobs do you have that you can just, watch this during your in your workday? So Maverick and his cuisine says, "Sup guys, just stop by, celebrate the big turn around. We can salvage the season. Next month is a light enough schedule where we can start our coaching search in the summer signings." Adam Bradford says Valentino should just be head coach. 442, why not? That was his, what is his record, by the way? Was it like 422? Or
I think it's 1-2-2. I think it wasn't very many games.
Right. Yeah. I thought he had a winning record though.
I don't believe, but I mean we can check it. But
everyone respects him in the club. T. Brian says, reading between the lines, it appears things are static. That is, Rob will coach the current roster. He expects this current roster to succeed. Garth stated the objectives have not changed. Connor says his ability to motivate the boys and the fact Pineda didn't adapt. I'm not gonna be able to get to all your guys' comments on it. There's quite a few of them, so write them down in the comments section and we will read them, but we might not be able to get to all the comments in the live chat tonight because there's quite of an inundation. Anthony Neitzel says, I'm completely fine with keeping the potential new DP spots for an incoming coach. Would be a good way to lure someone in. Bruno Cuba says, so how are we going to choose between Klopp, Gallardo, and Xavi for our next coach? That's a
lofty list.
Exactly. So I mean,
I think we should.
Do you pick up the phone? Do you pick up the phone for those people? Like, do you even give it a shot?
No, I think if you're Carlos Bocanegra, you stonewall Jurgen Klopp because he pretty much did that with
Bielsa,
Bielsa. So it's, I think in any sense, obviously you can try with those type of coaches, and you might get laughed off the call. You might actually get them. You never know. So I don't fault them if they try to go for try to hit the home run, but I think you got to try to sell the project, and
and this is a project, that's for sure. They have a lot of work to do here.
Right, and I don't know if Carlos Bocanegra is the guy that can sell the project, but hopefully Garth Lagerwey can be someone that is convincing, because I think those are the plus sides of Darren Eales, is that he's very much a charismatic person. He's a person that knew the right thing to say, is jovial, can lighten up situations, and I mean you kind of need that in the negotiation room when it's all said and done. There is that type of person that is a closer, and we'll see if Garth Lagerwey is that type of closer. I don't think he's the same ilk of an Eales, but hopefully he can be a person that can be convincing in other ways to maybe a bigger name.
So expected average points per game should be 2. 18 remaining games at 2 points each is 36, plus our current 16 is 52. That's enough for a playoff spot. Do you think we can keep that or even get to that rate and maintain it?
Right, and Garth Lagerwey pretty much did that math during the press conference, and I think it's interesting. That's definitely double the rate of what we're doing right now, and we have a lot of work to do in order to do that. I don't know if we can hit 36. If we are able to hit 25, I think we can call that second half of the season at least a little bit of a success, but that's just starting from rock bottom, essentially.
And maybe start by not losing at home.
Exactly, and that's the prioritization, is that the home results need to absolutely be protected.
Yeah, Zampini says everyone's saying Garth needs to go too. I'm not sure they're saying that. I think that that's a fairly unhinged part of the fan base, and I highly suggest you ignore largely what they say going forward, because I don't think that that is a good take to get Garth out of here. Yeah, we're definitely in a rebuilding phase, that's for sure. Let's see. Yes, everyone's is he really all? Everyone's saying that. The back line needs work. Mid solid, iffy in the front if GG leaves. Yeah, we'll see when it comes to what happens with GG, like we said earlier. The injuries to the back line, it's just cascading over and over, and it's terrible. Adam Bradford says Brad needs I go, unfortunately, but we haven't great keepers ready to go. But we have great keepers. So I think he says he needs to go. Yeah, I mean, that's that old Brad or Cohen thing. Last game, Cohen didn't impress too much. But luckily for him, a lot of those goals weren't really on him. Maybe one was kind of like maybe he could have done better, but for the most part, I don't really. I'm not going to be like, oh, Cohen he has exposed himself as being an absolute terrible goalkeeper last game. So
right. Yeah, and we'll talk about Cohen in the podcast. But I mean, just to kind of give a long and short is that, I mean, I don't know if he completely convinced, but there were some moments that I think he could do better, and yeah. I think right now the evaluation, at least that I have of him, is that he's a good shot stopper in penalty shootouts. He may or may not be kind of a starting full starting keeper, I think, in the league yet. If there's some on the ball things that he does need to work on. The calmness on the ball, I think also allowing your defense to kind of play with that kind of courage and certainty that you have the back covered, and possibly being another person to help start the attack. I think that's some of the growing that Josh Cohen can do. But we'll get into deeper. But yeah.
Joe May says real change will not come until the root of the rod is cut out. Bocanegra. He has been the poison to countless players' exits, and is responsible for half a decade of poor roster cap management. That's a heavy incendiary indictment of Carlos there, which is parts I agree with. Let's see.
But yeah, guys, definitely, if you want your comment heard, you can definitely as well put in a super chat. We're doing this during the workday, and we really wanted to make sure that we put out some content for you in this really, really big moment for Atlanta United, which for better or worse. So yeah, definitely we appreciate you, and if you want your comment read, obviously we don't have time to read through everything, but if you feel so kind to be inclined to put in a super chat, then we would be very, very grateful. But you like a little bit of a little poetry there?
Yeah, a little bit of poetry. And I also put in the Discord link where you can get at us in the chat of the Discord server with any other questions and comments as well. Are we posting on LinkedIn or Indeed for a coach? That's a good question. I don't know. Keep your eyes out. Keep your eyes open on LinkedIn for there.
If head coaches are really updating their LinkedIn profile, but maybe.
Yeah. Let's see.
Those would be funny to read, though.
Yeah.
Incredible, because you have to add a little bit of a description, and man, I would read Jose Mourinho's for sure, because he's long list.
Yeah.
And so if he had comments about each one.
A curriculum vitae on there, not a resume for sure. Kevin B says, keep a lookout for coaching changes in League 2 in France. Half joking, but a bulk of our recent players came from there. So that is a thing. And like you said earlier, it's a global search, so that's something good. Cesar Ibarra says, I haven't seen an Atlanta United game this year or gone to a game because of the mid-career players that we get. I'm not talking about Almada, but the players around him. Bocanegra gets an F for me. yeah, I guess you don't have to have watched the games and seen them to know what our standings are. So, fair point there. But, I think it's always good practice that if you levy criticisms against something, that you are well versed in that thing.
Yeah,
that's just
it
a
also
personal
is
thing, right?
very telling. It is telling though that people have popped up again,
Right.
because they realize, well, changes are being made because there is that little bit of the complacency turned off a lot of people as well.
Yes.
And so
it's just like
people are
acceptance
back.
of mediocrity. I think
Right.
even like Felipe Gardena said that in a tweet or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, if he's saying things like that, it's obvious.
Right.
It's not just in our own heads. It's just, So Joe May also says it's staggering when you add it up. Since our championship season with Tata Boca had 11 transfer windows, and he has struck out far more than he succeeded. Yeah, we've talked about this in the past. That in terms of his like ratio, I don't know how it compares to other technical directors in the league in terms of like hits and misses. I would just suspect though, I can't imagine a universe in where Carlos Bocanegra is the best possible technical director in terms of hits that we could have gotten and still can have now. There's got to be at least someone that we could get that's better. I don't think he's particularly that great. So, I mean, it's always kind of baffled me that we kept him along this long. So, that's my opinion on it.
Right. Like I said with Pineda, it's like, I promise you there's better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there have been a lot of coaches and not coaches, a lot of technical directors that have built winning sides recently, and it's one of those things where maybe we start being a big club and we start poaching these these people that are being successful. I think
that was my
mentality.
point. Like, I wrote this on a tweet earlier today. Like, the doctrine for the next era of Atlanta United has to be one word: victory. That needs to be the bottom line. Doesn't matter how it gets done. Doesn't matter where the coach comes from. Doesn't matter anything with attitude about the players. Blah blah blah. All of this noise needs to fade away, and victory needs to be the only thing that matters going forward. Because that's the only thing that turns everything else around. Everything revolves around that. Zampini says, been to every game as a season ticket holder, and it's such a bummer. Yeah, I get that. But hey, if you want to do a halftime meetup with us when we're there, which is pretty much every game, feel free to stop by. It makes the difficult times a little easier. Adam says, Rob has been here since 2018, has won games as an interim coach. He knows the club and understands what the front office wants. And he understands the game, knows his players' limits. Why not give him a chance? Yeah, we are going to give him a chance, so we'll see how that unfolds. Strong says, you know what? There's no shame if the club listens to some agent recommendations if they don't go for a known established name. Yeah, and I think, in terms of analytics that they rely upon, that perhaps might be, an outside consultant as well for that. I mean, and this is I'm going to keep hammering this in terms of this restructuring of the team. The bottom line is victory. And if you got to do a consultant agency, I don't care. If you get the right guy, it doesn't matter. If it translates to wins, that's, to me, the only thing that matters. Let's see. We'll get into a little bit of end of these comments. Let's Experience Earth says, our roster moves the last 18 months have been solid. No need to blow up everything with half the season left. Boca isn't the reason we have been on a slide this season. Tired of that narrative. Yeah, I mean, like we said earlier, we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, which is, I think, why it's a good idea to use Garth's approach of being surgical and removing possible variables, one by one instead of, throwing everything out. So that's, I think, a good methodology for this. The Colonel says, pretty sure Tim had a winning record, taking advantage of a weak string of opponents. Hayden says, I think I'd pick Klopp easily. I bet you would. I think we all would at this point if Klopp was available and was willing to come here. The ATL guy says, Jack says, who do you guys want as our next coach? I will leave that for, I think, the next episode. I think we're going to put that out perhaps Thursday morning. We'll have a section about that. We'll go into what AJ wants. We'll go window shopping a bit and bring you along for that experience. Hayden says, "Oh yeah, I think rumors will show up in the next few weeks. That's typically how it goes. It'll be exciting. I mean, that is the one good thing about this whole thing is like, you know, your team pops up in the news again, and you get linked to some really interesting players and things and coaches in this case. So hopefully that'll be fun to some degree." Zampini says, "My 3-year-old nephew started singing Rowdy and Proud watching this." That's cool. Good. I'm glad that he's doing that because hopefully this is a start of going in the right direction. So, you know, I have every right to be happy right now. Let's Experience Earth says, "No DP can cap on how much a club can spend on a manager. Seems a good way to use a deeper pocket." Yeah, I agree. And it was the same argument I used with, you know, Carlos Bocanegra and some other places. That's where you can make a difference in your off-field signings.
Yeah, and that interesting bit, obviously, you know, with the 80-20, you know, the Pareto rule, and of course the, you know, basically, you know, where the 20%, you know, is kind of the factor for the coaching kind of effect, I guess, for lack of a better phrase. And so, you know, with Pineda, that's probably, it led to the reluctance, is that knowing that, okay, well, you know, to make the move to fire Pineda, you know, it may not actually bring better results, but it is, you know, mid-season, that's the factor. Like, that's the only thing you can really change without a mass exodus of players, when you already brought in a bunch of players. Because, well, you know, if you change a whole bunch of players that you just brought in, you're admitting that, you know, you're not good at your job, essentially. You know, and Pineda has already been long at the job. I think that's where the factors kind of come into, you know, why they finally made the decision, albeit, you know, I think for a lot of people's taste, slowly.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, that is about it for us. We will be releasing an episode later this week that'll cover some of these questions as well in more in-depth look. And yeah, I mean, overall, like I said, a step in the right direction. The club has listened. They have heard us. They understand. Things cannot continue the way that they have been going. Corrections need to be made, and they are beginning to happen. So that's always good. It's always terrible when you see just complacency and accepting of mediocrity, like AJ said earlier. So we are finally no longer doing that, and we're trying to step up. We're trying to turn things around, and we're trying to at least slightly resemble the, you know, illustrious club that we were back in the 2018-19 time period.
Indeed. Yeah, so yeah, definitely, guys, leave your comments in the video itself, not just in the chat, and we'll get to whatever questions that you guys, you know, didn't get answers to, and definitely, you know, we'll see if we can respond to those in the 5 Stripe Weekly episode. So.
Yep, and
yeah.
I will personally force AJ to respond and stay up late to every one of your comments on this video. So, you know, make sure to get those in there.
Yeah, but guys, yes, for Michael, I'm AJ. Thank you guys so much for watching. Yeah, it's a big day for LA United in that we're finally, you know, kind of mercifully, really, making the move that we should have. And yes, you know, all the best to Gonzalo Pineda beyond this, except against us, of course. And you know, hopefully we can find the right man for the job very soon. But yeah, like, share, comment, subscribe. We'll see you in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching.
All right.